The village of Eziama had long lived under the shadows of an ancient law. Twins were a curse. The people believed that giving birth to 2 or more children at once was a sign of impurity, a mockery of the gods, and an omen of disaster. And so, the law was clear: twins must die. For generations, the chief priests and the elders enforced this decree with iron will. Once a woman bore twins, the babies were taken from her arms before she could even hear their first cry. The villagers would gather at the sacred grave, their faces emotionless, as the infants were gathered and thrown into the cursed river or sacrificed at the shrine of Udele, the god of purity. Women wept, but they dare not rebel. Those who did were silenced forever. Among the many mothers who had suffered this fate, Ugoye bore the deepest scars. She had carried 6 children to term, all of them twins, and each time she had been forced to watch helplessly as her babies were torn from her, their lives cut short before they had even begun. When she finally bore a single child, she named him Ozemena, a desperate plea to the gods: let this suffering not happen again. But the gods had their own plans. The morning Ugoye realized she was pregnant again, a chill ran through her. She had lived in constant fear of another twin birth. But when the village midwives pressed their hands against her swollen belly, their hush whispered confirmed her worst nightmare. It is twins again, said Nwamma, her closest friend and the only midwife she trusted. Ugoye collapsed onto her mat, trembling. The gods hate me, she whispered. Not the gods, Nwamma replied. The men who pretend to speak for them. Ugoye had no hope. She knew how this would end, but someone else did not. Ozemena, now a strong and fearless young man, had grown up with a heart full of defense. He had heard the story. He had seen the grief in his mother's eyes. He had long vowed that no other siblings of his would suffer the same fate. And so, when he learned that his mother carried twins again, he made a promise to himself. No one will take them, not while I'm still breathing. Ozemena was no ordinary man. He was a palm wine tapper, moving between villages with ease. He had built friendship beyond Eziama, and amongst them was Adako, an elderly widow from a distant village. Adako had no children of her own, but she had a heart full of love to give. When Ozemena told her of this village cruel tradition, she was horrified. No child should die for a foolish belief. She spared, bringing him to him. With that, the plan was set. The night before Ugoye's labor, Ozemena prepared. He gathered the strongest wine he could find, mixing it with herbs that could send anyone who drank it into deep slumber. He needed time to save his siblings before the chief priest and the elders arrived. The night was thick with tension. The air smelled at damp air and burning torches. Inside the hut, Ugoye screamed in agony of labor, gripped her body. Wamma walked quickly, her hands steady, her face drenched in sweat. Outside, Ozemena played his part. He called his father, his uncles, and even the village guard to his hut. He filled their cup again and again, urging them to drink, laughing as if there was no reason for concern. They drank, and one by one they fell. When Ugoye finally cried, "Pair the night," Ozemena was already inside the hut. Two baby boys lay wrapped in clothes, their tiny chests rising and falling. Ugoye, her face peeled from exhaustion, reached out to touch them. "Go," whispered, her eyes full of love and fear. "Save them," she said. With the babies swirled tightly against the chest of Ozemena, he ran. By the time the first rooster crowed, the village woke to chaos. The chief priest was enraged. The twins are missing. Men were sent into the forest. Hunters tracked footprints, dogs sniffing the air. They will find them. They always did. But Ozemena was faster. He knew the land better than the hunters. He knew which paths to avoid, which rivers ran deeper, which trees provided the best cover. Still, they were coming. With his heart pounding, he pushed forward, ignoring the burnings in the legs, ignoring the branches that tore at his skin. He had to make it for them, for his siblings. Just as he reached the border of Adako's village, he heard it, the sound of footprints behind him. They had found him. The chief priests. Men rushed forward, spear raised. Ozemena spun around, gripping his knife. "You will not take them," he roared. The first warrior launched. Ozemena ducked, driving his knife into the man's side. Another attacked. He swung a club. Ozemena barely dodged in time. The third man grabbed at the basket holding the twins. Ozemena kicked him back and ran. His breath raged. Adako's hut was so close. The warriors was closing in. And then a spear flew past his ears. He could hear the chief priest and the chief priest's voice in a far distance. "You cannot run from the gods, Ozemena." But he was not running from the gods. He was running from his family. With one final burst of strength, he crossed the village border, Adako's land. The warriors stopped. They could not cross. It was an abomination. Ozemena collapsed at Adako's doorstep, his body drenched in sweat, his arms still gripping the twins. He had won, for now. The chief priest returned to Eziama with a stone in his heart. He had lost the battle. But he was not done. He raised his staff to the sky, whispering to the gods, Ozemenan has defiled us. He has stolen what was meant to be given.